Morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Friday, January the 23rd. AMD gapping up here. So hopefully we can see potentially all-time highs this morning. I still have some contracts left over from Wednesday. We'll kind of talk about a bunch of these tickers here in a bit. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, decent amount of things to kind of talk about coming to this morning. We have some news we have some news with consumer sentiment, revised consumer sentiment. We have some news at 9:45. We'll kind of talk about here. We had Intel earnings last night. Intel down a little bit. We'll kind of talk about that and what the game plan is moving forward. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Before we get started, good morning, B Roots. Good morning, Victor, KO, Cody, Rick, I am, Robert, Deuce, ANL. Good morning, Cuba, Martin, Chris, Ryan, Nontali, 50. What's up, everyone? Good morning, Cinna, Lamit, Hartik, TW, Robert, Cosmic, Deuce. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Yeah, let's get right into it. Let's pull up the economic calendar, of course, and then we'll get started here. So, first things first, let's talk about the news events that we have coming into today. Some things to mention. Yesterday, we had Elon talking at the World Economic Forum. So we had a couple news events. Tesla popped up nicely, really midday. Higher time frames look pretty good as well on Tesla. Nvidia popping in the after hours. So we'll kind of talk about a couple names. But we still have the World Economic Forum going on. It's going to be our last day here. As for some red folder news events, of course, we do have flash services. That is going to be at 9:45 today. And then at 10 a.m., we have that revised consumer sentiment. So we have a couple red folder news events. That is going to be at 9:45, 15 minutes during market open. Now let's really go on to exactly what we're looking for, the key levels that we have marked out coming to market open. So at least for Friday, overall markets, we actually filled a couple gaps that we've had. So first, let's talk about the ES. So coming into this week, we had we had Monday off with a market holiday, and we had some news over the weekend, and then ultimately we had Trump tariffs where we reversed back towards the upside when he backed out. And as you can see, we have this pretty big gap towards the upside. So we created this gap over the weekend. You can see we actually ended up filling the gap that we created here yesterday. Which was on the daily chart, but we have a little bit more of a gap here up and towards our Thursday's our Thursday's close that we have. So for the ES coming to market open, the key levels that we're just going to have marked out is going to be our Wednesday's high. So our Wednesday's highs is going to be key. If we do want to see some upside today, reclaim back above our Wednesday's highs for a push up in towards our previous day highs and potentially above, which is that Thursday's lows of last week. Another possible long scenario, really this is my favorite long scenario just because markets are going to build higher lows where it's going to be above our previous day highs for continuation towards the upside. If we ultimately maintain, heaviness underneath our Wednesday's highs, potentially we can see just a push right back down in towards that 6,900 here on the higher time frame. So for the overall markets, I'm fairly neutral. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the upside just because we have this higher time frame gap, but I'm fairly neutral, kind of similar game plan to yesterday. If we can maintain above that Wednesday's highs, I'm going to have a bullish stance. If we break underneath, then I'm going to be a little bit more bearish, looking for potentially that 6,900. So for the ES, exact same level as yesterday, so keep that in mind. If we're looking at the SPY chart, as you can see right here, we essentially filled the gap that we created on the hourly. So as you can see right here, if we're looking at this, we created this gap over the weekend. Now the markets, we want to push back up in towards this gap. And you can see we essentially kind of filled it. Of course, we filled it here on the daily chart. We actually haven't quite filled it on the lower time frames, but markets are essentially gravitating back up in towards that level, as you can see right here. So coming into market open here today for the SPY chart, the key levels is going to be the exact same thing. Where we're going to have marked out here is going to be that Wednesday's highs. If we do want to see some upside, it's going to be the break back above this 688.50 for this continuation back up and towards our previous day highs and above. really this is the only long scenario that I see. Potentially, you can mark out that opening range candle here as well. Opening range for push up and towards your previous day highs and above. So two scenarios for the SPY. And then for downside, kind of similar thing to yesterday. I actually ended up taking the SPY previous day high retest for a potential move down in towards the gap fill that we created here on Thursday. So basically the exact same level is applicable today. If we maintain underneath that 688, potentially you can see a push down in towards that previous day lows and potentially that mini gap fill that we created here on Wednesday, which is down in towards that 685.50. So this is what we have on the SPY chart coming into market open. As I mentioned, we're going to be a little bit more neutral coming to market open and just wait for the reaction that we have off your 688.50. As for the NQ chart, let's quickly go over this here now as well. So for the NQ, we actually ended up filling the gap that we created here over the weekend. So for the ES, we haven't quite filled the gap fully. But as for the NQ, you can see we already filled the gap. This was essentially already on Wednesday. So coming into market open here today, we already filled the gap, which is one of our main objectives for the week. And I can see there's a couple of reactions just around this gap level. So if you do want to see some more upside, it's going to have to be above your Thursday's lows from last week. And of course, your high that we created here on Wednesday, which is that gap fill. So coming into today, if you do want to see some upside here, mark out that 25,660. If you do want to see upside, we need to get back above this level for this continued push towards the highs. Another possible scenario here is going to be now above your previous day highs for this continuation towards the upside. So two scenarios here as well on NQ for continuation higher. Ultimately, if we do reject off this level, then we're just going to come right back down in towards our pre-market lows, that previous day lows, and potentially this higher time frame key level, which is your 25,440. So basically the exact same game plan. It's going to be that it's going to be that Wednesday's highs from this week, which is also your Thursday's lows from last week. Exact same game plan as the ES here. We'll talk about a couple of names, right? Semis are still holding up very nicely. IWM moving on very nicely here as well. But for the NQ and the QQQ specifically, keep an eye out on your Wednesday's highs of this week. If you go on to the Q chart, as you can see here, exact same thesis, right? We already filled the gap that we created here over the weekend, right? Big gap down. We filled it already back towards the upside. Now, if we want to see any sort of continued push higher, it needs to be above the 621 for continuation back towards the highs. So let's go back onto the extended trading hours. So as you can see here, exact level for the QQQ. If you do want to see upside here, break above your 620.50 for a potential push up and towards your previous day highs, or now, of course, above your previous day highs for continuation higher. So these are the two scenarios that we have on the QQQ. This is for upside. As for downside, we need to stay heavy underneath your 625.50. Potentially, you could be looking for the shorts for a push down in towards your pre-market lows along with your previous day lows. So for the QQQ, this is what we have coming into market open. So fairly neutral on both the SPY and the Qs. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the upside, but currently so far filled that gap that we already had over the weekend. Plus, we're fairly neutral coming to market open. So keep an eye out on your 620.50 on the QQQ. Now let's go on to the SMH. So let's go into the SMH here. This one recently hit our all-time highs yesterday. A little bit of a reaction here as well. And then plus we had some Intel earnings in the after hours, which is pushing this lower. So for the SMH, as you can see right here, the key levels that we have marked out, at least coming to this week, we're fairly neutral. You can see this is Monday's price action. We are still technically bullish because we're above your Monday's highs. But now moving forward here on the SMH, we're going to need to reclaim back above your Thursday's highs of last week. So if you do want to see some upside, reclaim back above our Thursday's highs of last week for any sort of continuation. Currently, you can see we're actually underneath our previous day lows. So we need to reclaim back above a couple key levels if you do want to see some semis upside. So it's really going to be above your 403 or right, reclaim above your previous day lows right off the bat. Really, for semis, I'm still very much bullish here on the higher time frames. As you can see, every single dip has been bottomed up, right? Higher lows are being maintained. So until we can break market structure, right, look for major dips on the SMH for continuation higher. So the exact key level is going to be that 403 here today. And of course, if you maintain underneath your 403 and your previous day lows, potentially we can see a little bit of a pullback here. So that's what I have on the SMH. And then for the IWM, you can see this one's still very much holding up. So the IWM and the SMH has really been leading the market back higher. You can see nice push up on the IWM. The key levels that we have coming to market open here is just going to be our Wednesday's highs. And we can also mark out now our previous day highs, which happens to be our 269.50. So this is what we have for the IWM coming to market open here today, 268.50 along with our 269.50. If you want to see some downside, either the upside bounce play off that 268.50. Another possible long is going to be above our 269. So this is what we have for the IWM. I personally only like shorts here on IWM, either underneath your previous day lows for an immediate retest, or now it's going to have to be underneath that 268.50 for that continuation lower here as well. So this is what we have for the IWM coming into market open. Now let's head on to some tech names and what we have coming into market open here today. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watches, of course, that one is linked in the description below as well. Alrighty. Yeah, if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. I'll go over the Mag 7 here, and then I'll go over some high beta names that we'll take a look at. And then, yeah, that's about it. So let's first start off on Tesla. So Tesla right here, we had some news yesterday. Higher time frames are still technically bullish. You can see we kind of bounced at a key level of support. If you just draw this general area, this is our 420. You can see we have multiple touches, turn into resistance. Once we broke back above, use this general area as support. And now you can see markets are bouncing nicely here off that 420 on Tesla. So coming into today, on Tesla moving forward, pretty strong reclaim the past couple of days. Nice push back towards the upside. Key levels that we can have marked out really now for Tesla is going to be the 444. And of course, we have our last week's highs here actually, which is our 454. So coming to market open here for Tesla, yeah, we have our Wednesday's highs of last week, and now we can also mark out our previous day highs. So you can mark this and drag it over. So coming into market open here for Tesla, if you do want to see some continued upside, number one, above your previous day highs for continuation, for a potential kind of dip and rip. Another possible scenario, you have this kind of opening drive right off the bat, pre-market high retest or some sort of opening range retest for a push up in towards that 454. And then of course, potential pullbacks down in towards your 444 can be bought up for this continuation higher here as well. So a couple scenarios. We're going to keep an eye out on Tesla today just because it had some news yesterday. And now we end up having, we had news yesterday holding up above key levels here now. So we would keep an eye out on your previous day highs, 449 coming into market open. We can see a nice push up and towards this 454. As for Tesla, downside, I am not interested in downside. Only thing I'll be interested in is a potential kind of mean reversion down in towards that 444. But Tesla shorts would look a lot better underneath that 444 here. Besides that, be a little bit more hands off on the downside. A lot of names are shaping up nicely here. Qs, of course, we had Trump backing off the tariffs. So now I'm actually leaning more towards the upside on the overall markets. And of course, a lot of these tech names here are bouncing nicely as well. So keep that in mind moving forward. Let's go on to NVIDIA. So NVIDIA right here, as you can see, slowly pushing back towards the high. So NVIDIA has been one of these tickers that have been lagging the market quite a bit. You can see overall markets, we kind of have this downtrend break forming here as well, but NVIDIA compared to the rest of the market has been lagging behind, specifically on the semiconductors. The key levels moving forward here on NVIDIA, number one, of course, is going to be that level that we had last week. You can just draw out this whole general area, but it's this 186. Now we're above your previous day highs. You can see we had a couple rejections yesterday off this 186. So coming to market open here today, if you do want to see continued longs, it's going to be the bounce offer 186 previous day highs for this continuation towards the upside. Other possible scenarios, yeah, this is really the only scenario like is your 186 previous day high retest for continuation. If it pops higher right off the bat, you could be looking for some sort of opening range break and retest for a push up and towards your pre-market highs and above. But this is what we have for NVIDIA. And then of course, you could see this previous day close gap fill only if price gets underneath our previous day highs and stays heavy, which is underneath this 186. So this is what I have for NVIDIA coming into market open. Now let's go on to AMD. AMD, favorite looking chart here on the higher time frames. I still have some trailers over from Wednesday, holding only 10 contracts left. But for AMD, really all-time highs is in play here. Two really 60s, and then of course 263 and then 266. We should see all-time highs potentially next week here on AMD. So the key levels that we have marked out coming into today, we have these marked out. We can mark out that previous day highs here as well, along with that 260. But this is essentially what we have marked out. 256, we have your Wednesday's highs, and then of course we have your 259, 263 towards upside, and 266. So coming into market open here today, we're gapping up nicely here, about 2% in the pre-market, pretty big gap up. I really don't want to see a push down in towards your previous day highs, but it could very much well come back down. So for today, the key levels I have marked out is going to be that 259, this daily time frame key level. I personally just like to see buyers kind of step in right off the bat for this continued push right towards the upside off that 259. Another possible scenario, buyers step in right off the bat. We could be looking for continuation above your pre-market high, or of course, if price pulls all the way back down in towards that previous day highs, you could be looking for the bounce off that previous day highs here on AMD. Really coming to market open, I'd just like to see it continue higher. We'll keep an eye out on really that first bounce off that 259 or the break above this pre-market high for continuation. If it does pull back down towards that previous day highs, we'll keep an eye on it, but it is right. That would be a fairly steep pullback. So we will keep an eye out on AMD off of your 259 and of course that pre-market high here as well. But this one, as I mentioned, higher time frames. If we take a look at this, really next main objective here on the higher time frames is going to be this all-time highs general area. You can see nice bottom that we created. We kind of have this W-shaped recovery, and now the next major targets is going to be back up and towards our all-time highs. You can see, right, if you're going to look to take profits, you're going to look to take profits up into this general area here. So that's what we have for AMD. We'll keep an eye out on this one moving forward here, since this one is looking very, very solid. Now let's go on to a few other tickers that we have coming into market open. Apple, really not doing too much. Key level that we have, the area that we broke down from, multiple touches. I was not able to get back above that 250.90. So this one's still technically staying heavy here. As for Google, Google was one of our main watches yesterday for a potential hold of this previous day highs, but within the first kind of 5 to 10 minutes, big drop right off the bat. No really buyers stepped in off that previous day highs, and now we're essentially consolidating. Google, I'm still somewhat interested in this one on the higher time frames. It's now going to be the reclaim back above that 332 for that continuation back towards the highs. As for Meta, this one, another one that we kept an eye out on yesterday above your 628. So a lot of buyers stepped in above your 628 here. Friday's highs of last week. Nice continuation up and towards your 644. So if you go into Meta here, let's go on to the daily chart. We're having this nice bounce from the bottom, pretty strong bullish candle here. Now moving forward here on Meta, key level that I have marked out, 640. If you do want to see some upside, needs to reclaim back above 644 continuation. It does look like we're most likely going to have what's called an inside bar today. Let's actually look at this daily wick. The key level that we have on Meta coming to market open is just going to be that 644. If we do want to see some more upside, break back above our 644. Okay, we should be good back on here. So as for Meta, if it doesn't work, just refresh the stream and it should be all set. So I already went over Meta. Key level, as I mentioned, is going to be that 644. As for Amazon, key levels that we have marked out is that 236 here. That's going to be the key if we want to see any sort of reclaim. But really, the best names that have been moving towards the upside have been the names we've been talking about for a while. If you guys have been joining the pre-market preps for the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about AMD. We've been talking about the semiconductors, right? MU, TSM, Intel. We'll kind of talk about Intel here in a second, but all the semiconductors have been showing the nicest strength towards the upside. As for Netflix, this one recently had earnings, and now we also have an inside bar day. So for today, just be a little bit more cautious on Netflix just because we have an inside bar day. You can mark out our previous day highs, which is right here, and that previous day lows. As you guys know, inside bar day, break underneath, continuation towards the downside. If we break above, we can see that outer bar. So that's what we have for Netflix. Now let's go on to some high beta names and we'll head on to some other tickers here as well. So if you guys do have any tickers or if you guys have any charts, you guys can now drop them in the chat. I'll go over some names for the next kind of 5 to 10 minutes. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate it if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't already joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Okay, let's go on to MU. So first things first, let's head on to MU. This one dropped within the first 15 minutes towards the downside yesterday, right back down into key levels of support, which is just your Wednesday's highs. You can see a nice kind of slow grind right back towards the upside. MU higher time frame still very much bullish, right? This is not a name to go look short just because higher time frame still very much intact. Every single dip has been bought up until we break market structure or until we show some bearish order flow. MU is still going to be a leader back towards the upside. As for the key levels today, what you're going to have marked out is going to be this 394. Right, this is going to be that Wednesday's highs. So this is very key. We have multiple we have multiple touches. If we do want to see the reclaim, right, we need to hold back above this 394 for any sort of continuation, or of course now above your pre-market high for a potential push up and towards our pre-market highs from yesterday. This is the play here for MU. It's showing a little bit of toppy price action here, but as I mentioned, still maintain a bullish stance. If you reject off your 394, you can see a push down in towards your 380s. But MU, I'm not that interested in shorts. Higher time frame still very much holding up. Let's go on to TSM. This one kind of been consolidating for this week. Not too much to talk about, but TSM, you have this nice consolidation here. If you can break back above your 334, you can see this nice push back up and towards your 340. So that's what we have here on TSM. Let's talk about Intel. So Intel, higher time frames, as you can see, really hit one of our main objectives, which was our 50 key psych, our 2024 highs. Really solid push towards the upside. Now we're just getting that little bit of a pullback. So for Intel now, right, we just want to see it find some support, consolidate for that next like higher. But now, of course, with earnings, we're going to base. It might take like 1 to 2 months for it to reverse kind of back towards the highs. But for Intel, now the key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be essentially the area that we broke out from. So you can see it's just basically kind of pulling back down into the key level of support, which we broke out from here now. Other levels that I have marked out is your, let's actually go into the daily chart. So what we have here is your 50-50, which is your 2024 highs. And now that we're underneath this key level, what we have here is your 47.50 and all the way down in towards your 45. So for Intel coming into today, you're going to be a little bit more cautious just because we did have some earnings in the after hours. The IV is going to be pretty elevated right off the bat. If you do want to see any sort of upside, it's going to be pretty difficult. So it's going to be that kind of mean reversion for a push back up in towards potentially your 50 key psychological level, I would be very cautious on this kind of mean reversion play. I don't expect it to move up in a straight line. If you do want to see some downside though on Intel, this one, the key level that I have marked out is really just this 4750. I'm really not that interested in a pop and fade on earnings for a continuation down in towards that 45. This is in play, but yeah, with Intel down about 13% here, I'll be a little bit more cautious coming to market open, but pop and fade is in play off that 4750, or of course, if it reclaims back above, you could be looking for the mean reversion back up in towards your 49 and potentially 50. So this is what we have for Intel coming to market open. I'll just probably be a little bit more hands off. Plus, it's a Friday here today as well. So the IV is going to be fairly high here on Intel, but we'll kind of talk about this a little bit more next week and the game plan moving forward for long term. As for a few other tickers here, SNDK is still holding up very nicely. So higher time frame, little bit of a pullback yesterday, but we still haven't had like a crazy blow off the top move. Exact same game plan as MU. So if we can reclaim, maintain above that, really now it's going to be that Wednesday's highs. We can see a push back up and towards our previous day highs. Another possible scenario above your previous day highs, we can see continuation. So MU and SNDK, fairly similar charts here. So keep an eye out on your Wednesday's highs along with that previous day highs. As for the main things here today, of course, is going to be AMD continuation. You're just going to really base it off of intraday price action plus your pre-market levels. If you already haven't entered, you just want to be a little bit more cautious on a Friday. But as I mentioned, AMD looks solid for a push up and towards our all-time highs. I'm expecting that level to get hit next week. As for everything else, let's go on to a couple other names. Let's see. Netflix went over those. Let's see this. Let's scroll up here as well. Do you execute your stop loss manually? That is correct. MU Palantir. Let's go on to Palantir. Palantir, this one, a little bit of a bounce. We're kind of at a key level support, but not too many buyers are stepping in compared to the rest of the names here. So for Palantir, key level is just this 166. Gonna have to reclaim back above if you want to see any sort of push back towards the highs. For on the lower time frames here, as you can see, 166 marked out. So if you do want to see upside, reclaim back above for continuation. Ultimately, if we do reject off this level, we're going to see a push back down in towards that previous day lows. Let's go over gold and silver here since these ones are still trending. So as long as these ones maintain above key levels, they're just going to continue higher. So for something like silver, as you can see, higher lows are being built. We actually ended up filling the gap that we created here over the weekend. And then once we reclaim back above key levels, you're going to be looking for continuation. So whenever the market's very bullish and we break underneath key levels of support, what you're going to be looking for, as long as the market structure is still intact, is the reclaim setup. So that's one of my favorite setups in a bullish market, is the reclaim setup. And sometimes the reclaims are even better than the retests themselves, just because the market structure is still intact and the higher time frames is still very much bullish. As for gold, similar thing here. Higher lows are still very much being built. Just mark out your down close candles. Super solid push up, gravitated back down towards this down close candle, the only 1 hour down close candle that we have for continuation. Now for gold, similar thing. You just mark out your down close candles here. You can see buyers are being supported off our down close candles. We just like to see now continuation back up and towards our all-time highs. Okay, so that's what we have for gold and silver. As for the overall markets coming to today, let me go over my game plan and then I'm just going to call it a day. So as I mentioned, coming to market open here, I'm fairly neutral. Coming into today, you can see we're just kind of in between its previous day's range, right around this Wednesday's highs here as well. So let's keep an eye out on your 688. You guys already know the game plan. Above it, we can see a push up and towards your previous day highs. Rejection, we can see your previous day low and potentially our gap that we created here on Wednesday. Exact same game plan here as the SPY. If you can get above potential previous day highs, rejection, potentially you can see that previous day close that we created here on Wednesday. As for the game plan coming to market open, my favorite watch, of course, is going to be AMD, right? AMD, I still have some, so we'll see if we take any day trades on this one. But above your previous day highs, higher time frames, we can see your 260, 263, and of course your 266. If we go on to the higher time frames, right, key level that we have is your 260. So potential bounce off 260 for this push up and towards your 263 here is in play. That's going to be my top watch coming to market open. Nvidia, keep an eye out on your previous day highs here as well for potential buyers to step in. So AMD, Nvidia. As for everything else, yeah, more neutral on it. Even Tesla, we can keep an eye out. Even Tesla, we can keep an eye out on your previous day highs here as well for continuation towards the upside. And then for the rest of the semis, yeah, we're gonna be a little bit more cautious. MU, not as interested anymore. We'll kind of be a little bit more patient. Higher time frame still very much intact. SNDK looks very similar to MU all-time highs. But my favorite, of course, is going to be AMD. We'll talk about Intel next week. And besides that, yeah, that is going to be it for me today. I am going to get ready for market open here now. I have a really solid YouTube video coming out this Sunday on price action concepts, kind of explaining the three most important price action concepts: direction, location, of course, execution. So that is a must watch. It's going to come out on Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Besides that, yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and great weekend. Been fantastic so far for the month of January. And yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, of course, that's in the description below. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, sorry. I'll see you guys all next week. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.